All right, so this is the Riley and Friends podcast, also colloquially known as the Chugglefucks Anonymous podcast, but we don't say that on the title card just because YouTube is YouTube and the content, moderation, whatever, may the content last forever.
Long live the content.
Yeah, of course.
But
All about content.
Absolutely. But this is a show where I hang out with my two friends. Well, I have more than two friends, but my two friends here right now.
No, we're the only ones. Only friends.
No, you're my only friends. And we talk about movies, video games, TV, music, books, any other type of media. I'm trying to think. Telegram.
Carrier pigeon in there?
We could do carrier pigeon.
Are we talking about carrier pigeons and interpretive dance?
Oh my god, I just noticed this. There's a cat over my shoulder.
Right there.
Production value.
Photo bombing.
So how about you two just reintroduce yourselves to folks that are just starting on this episode? How about you go first, Corinne?
Hi, I'm Corinne. You can find me on Twitter as Manic Pixie Girl without the E in Pixie because someone else stole that like a bee. I do lots of tabletop stuff. You can find me on Reroll HQ doing that. Or you can find me on my podcast, Wham Bam Thank You Man. Well, excuse me. I know my own podcast name, Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am, which is a comedy romance novel and smut podcast where we get tipsy and read romance novels and critically analyze them. The second episode is coming out this coming Wednesday, 5/17. And so far, good response from the patrons who get to hear it first. It is both hilarious and also some of them who know me well are uncomfortable. Only I have no shame, and I read a sex scene apparently very well, and they know me too well to have listened to that now. And now they're like, well, that's a thing I've heard, and I'm like, yes, it is. I warned you.
That's in your brain. Your brain knows that now.
Yeah, your brain knows that now, but I warned you also. There is a content warning at the top of the episode. The content warning at the top of the podcast. So 18 only, please. 18 plus and up. We talk about sex. But yeah, that's me.
All right, on to Gabe, my second esteemed co-host.
Hello, I am Gabe Halverson. You can find me here, basically just here.
Only here.
Yeah, only here. So if you're listening, good job. Yeah, there's cats. They'll be photobombing apparently throughout the show. So there you go.
Gabe, do you cease to exist after this session ends? Do you just fade away like a ghost?
Am I allowed to know that? Am
I
aware of this?
It's not in your contract.
Oh, okay. I feel like flogging Molly and Dropkick Murphys for it. After St. Patrick's Day, we just put them back in the closet. I don't know. Don't ask me. I would just assume I disappear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you probably think you always exist because you're only conscious of when you're actually aware of.
Exactly. This is me. What do you? I don't know.
I'm sorry to question your reality, Gabe. My
Worst episode of Black Mirror ever.
I don't know. I saw the Miley Cyrus one, so shots fired.
The co-host that only exists when you're on camera with them. Wow, my camera. It's struggle busting today. Hold on.
It'll figure it out.
It just needs to get in the mood.
There we go. Yeah, it's Sunday. It's tired. It doesn't want to cooperate today.
Yeah, I get that. I don't blame it.
Yeah, it's been a long weekend. It doesn't want to go to work tomorrow.
I feel that.
Yeah, I now have a meeting on Mondays, and it's like, we never used to have meetings on Mondays. I have to work on Monday.
Yeah, I work from home on Mondays, and I have Zelda now, so I don't imagine that's going to have bad results.
And kind of segueing into a topic, how is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom?
Have you not played, I assume?
I have not. I'm catching up on some other games, which I'll talk about after.
Well, here's what I've learned from Zelda so far. There are many ways to do things. I'm going to choose the one that causes the most problems every time.
Tends to be your play style.
Yeah, so there's this part where you're supposed to make a friend who can't move, basically give him back to his other friend. And it's clearly wanting you to put him on a platform, attach a hook to it, and then slide down this big rail. But, instead of doing that, the first time I just threw him off the cliff because it let me pick him up. Yep, which was great. And then instead of using a platform, I just attached a hook to his forehead and then put him on the thing and let him scream all the way down.
But did that work?
Oh, it totally works. Yeah, it's great. And then when he got down there, I took him to his friend and glued him to him. So now they're permanently attached.
Is your cartoon? is your the 90s cartoon Link? Are you like playing as that character? The asshole Link?
I mean, he doesn't. My motivation is this entertaining? Yes, then probably get out of the way. It's gonna happen. I don't know what the story is yet. Don't ask me that. I just have tools and I will mess things up. I built stairs and then I dropped them from 3 stories up on a guy, so that was fun.
So you're saying there's a lot of flexibility in the game, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. I plan to do no campaigning and only this kind of things.
As the makers intended.
Oh, of course. I'm sure you've seen the videos. The videos of what people have made. Giant Fire Penis Man has come to mind.
Yes, I did see Giant Fire Penis Man. People have also made like a giant Trojan horse.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, Brother has been playing it. He discovered that the underground is like really huge. So for anybody who hasn't explored the underground, there's also an underground, and it's really
did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's an underground. And that's why if you see like you can make like a potion or a food item that makes you glow, that's why. Like it's not just because you get to glow.
It's not for stupid reasons.
Yeah, it's not for stupid reasons. It's because it's dark underground, and if you glow, you can see better.
This game, the first one taught me how to play the game in weird ways. So I'm like, that's all I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a man over there in a shack. I'm going to light the shack on fire instead of fighting him.
Creative problem solving.
10 out of 10 so far. To do it. Love it.
I'm kind of waiting on it. Not necessarily because I don't think I'll like the game, even though I didn't finish Breath of the Wild, sad to say. Not because I thought it was bad, but because I got to a point where I got stuck on like I'm not sure if it was a boss battle or it was some sort of active quest, and it's like, maybe the game was trying to tell me come back when you were stronger, but every time I would go out, it was in that desert area, and there was that thing stomping around.
Those things are
fun.
Like,
and every time I was out of the, I don't know if it was like a shield bubble or whatever, it would insta-kill me. And it's like, well, I was like, I'll come back to this later. And I never did.
That's
a way around that, yeah.
I play games is I'll come back later. No.
Yeah, that's the problem with things like this. I know I don't, and I won't. So I'm like, we're just going to, everything goes behind Zelda. But there is a secret. Did you find out that you can tip those big creatures over?
What?
So the things that shoot the giant lasers out of their faces, do you know what happens if you tip them over?
How do you tip them over?
So there's this weird thing you can do where you basically get up to them and you can get them to come after you in a way that they get stuck on things, and then they start to go forward and they fall over. And when they fall over, sometimes they spew parts infinitely, like a geyser of madness. And if you do this enough times, you can get infinite parts and end up with super arrows and shoot yourself into the ground and fly through the air like Superman, playing the game the way you're supposed to.
As the creators intended.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Infinite super arrows that kill things in one shot. Yep, that's what they want me to have.
Yeah, that's the gamer guide way to play it.
Just break the game.
If I can, I always will.
So currently I have been playing 2 games. I've been playing more Dead Island 2, and I've also started Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So Dead Island 2, my opinion still has not really changed since the last time we've talked. As far as killing zombies, it's solid, and I'd recommend, if it was like in a bargain bin, I think you'd have a good time with it. It's just that the story, the writing, and some of the, I want to say, there's some questionable design decisions. that kind of hinder the game just a tiny bit. That kind of make it like it's solid. It's a solid like hack and slash, brutally murder lots of zombies game, but it's like nothing else.
We have a lot of those already.
Yeah, that's the problem. But and I personally have not played that many of them. Like I've never played Dying Light. I never played the other Dead Island. So this is like kind of like my first time going through it. So while it doesn't feel new because the combat system is very similar to like something from like an Elder Scrolls game, but with more status effects. But it's still not. I'm enjoying it, but it's not like a must play or anything like that.
Right.
It's a wait until it goes on sale kind of title.
Yeah. I'd recommend. Like if you see it for like $20, I'd say you'd have a good time with it, especially if you need like a co-op game. It can be played single because I've mostly been doing single player, but co-op's always like murdering zombies with friends is always the best way to do things.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I mean that's so many games are built on that now. Like everyone knows murdering zombies with friends is the best way to do it.
It's a very strong and convincing business model.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead has proved this to us.
Yes, excellent games, Left 4 Dead. Oh yeah, excellent.
But Valve can't make a game with the number 3 in it.
No, they're not allowed.
It's against the law.
If they do it, I'm pretty sure that's one of the 7 seals for Doomsday. So.
I can imagine that.
They're holding back the tides of the end of the world.
They do it on purpose too. Like they've made spin-offs to things where they have some games like Half-Life Alyx, but they're like, but that doesn't count though, guys.
It isn't a 3.
No. You kind of put the image of the cabin in the woods in my head, but instead of the people downstairs, instead of those guys, it was Valve.
Yes.
The other game I played, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which has been in the headlines due to having lots of performance and bug issues. I personally have not experienced them yet, but I'm only like 4 hours into the game.
Are you PlayStation or PC?
PS5. So I'm
okay.
going to guess that a lot of the criticisms come from the PC version. I'd say as far as playing it, much more refined compared to Fallen Order. And I liked Fallen Order, but the problem with Fallen Order is that its action platforming kind of literally felt like a PS2 platformer, but with a little bit more modernization. Whereas now it kind of feels more closer to like an Uncharted.
I really liked Fallen Order too. I mean,
you're
right about the action jumping, but
yeah, I mean it's a good Dark Souls light, or Souls light, and this one, the combat, feels improved. Like fighting non-human, like I remember Fallen Order fighting the non-human monsters was kind of irritating.
It can be
because they were kind of harder to predict. This time they're easier to predict. I'm not exactly sure why yet. Other than maybe they choreograph their movements better, maybe. I'd have to kind of replay more Fallen Order to kind of know why. But suffice
my
to say,
best guess, just like right out of the gate, is maybe that they're telegraphing the movements more, much like in like Souls-like games where a lot of the movements for enemies are telegraphed in a way that like gives you a chance to respond. Would be my guess. I have no actual reasoning.
Yeah, and that could be the case. It's just that wasn't the case in Fallout.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. I just didn't buy it on purpose because I knew what would happen when Zelda came out.
Fair, yeah. I think everyone knew what would happen. Somebody that I work like tangentially with, like not at my company, but like a colleague at another company that I work with, she specifically took all of Friday off because she was going to be playing Zelda. She was like, "Nah, I'm off."
I have coworkers that did that.
Yeah.
Did she get her copy though?
Yeah, she got it. She was able to play.
Because some folks were like, "I took Friday off. My copy hasn't arrived."
Yeah, I think she just downloaded, so she was okay.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, she took off, and I heard that from like my other coworker knows her. He was like, "Oh yeah, she's off today to play Zelda," and I'm like, good for her.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the game that brings everyone together by bringing them apart?
Yes. taking the day off from work to play Zelda.
It's like
A group
Skyrim.
activity.
When Skyrim released when I was in college, I was an e-media major, and well, as you can guess, there's a lot of nerds. I was the only guy that showed up that day, and they turned around asking, like, what happened? And some girls like, stupid video games. Like, yeah.
But are they stupid? Are they?
I mean, not more than anything else.
They are, but also they aren't.
Yeah.
Just like all things in life.
Just like all things in life, it's a dichotomy.
Can be both.
I've been playing Darkest Dungeon 2. It just came out, I think on the 8th, I think. One of those days. So far, I like it. I have some qualms.
Okay.
I think, did either of you play Darkest Dungeon 1?
I have not. What type of is it?
So it's a roguelike game.
Okay.
Kind of like a squad builder. So basically the premise of Darkest Dungeon 1 is that you inherit a house in like a town, like a hamlet, that your ancestor was fucking around with the occult in, and has unleashed horrors underneath and around this hamlet. And it's your job to hire adventurers to go and clear them out. Just go clear them out, fix them before they infect the rest of the world. And you do so by like bringing on adventurers that are like different types. Like you will have like a highwayman, or like kind of like a paladin type, or like a rogue type, like they have different names, but like they're, like kind of like different classes that you would be familiar with from other similar games, or like D&D or something like that. And they all have different skill sets, and it's a turn-based game where like you explore these dungeons, going from room to room and either finding treasure or fighting enemies. And then there'll be like bosses per region that you have to defeat to like clear the area. And then once you clear the area, it's like deemed cleared, and you've like sanctified that area. You've gotten rid of the eldritch horror that was released in there. And the goal was to get a party strong enough to defeat the Darkest Dungeon. So basically where the eldritch horrors were coming from.
Okay.
It was very much turn-based. It was you like explored this dungeon. It was you had all these different characters. Once the character died, they were dead forever, but you could get another one of the same type, just with a different name and different traits. And one of the biggest things is that like the traits affect how they play. Like they could be afraid of blood. So if they're bleeding, they get more stress, and stress could literally make them have a heart attack. Or they could be afraid of, they could be claustrophobic. So if you put them in one of the underground dungeons, they're going to get more stress. And if they get too stressed, they can have a heart attack. And once they reached a certain level of stress, one of two things would happen. They would either have like essentially a meltdown and like freak out, which is like the negative response, or they could become resilient, essentially like have like a moment where they push through the stress and like persevered. And those had different effects on the game. But no matter what, if you reached high stress twice, they could have a heart attack and die. So like they could have a heart attack just from stress and die.
I gotta ask though, is heart attack the only means of killing people in this game?
No. They can die via monster, blood loss, lack of food. Like, there's tons of things they can die by, but stress is kind of the one that sneaks up on you.
Monster took his head off and he died of a heart attack.
And basically, it's a management game of how much are you willing to risk. Are you willing to risk this character that you spent all this time on leveling up to go into this dungeon or fight this boss because you think they can do it, only to have the possibility that you will lose them forever and lose all that time and effort that you put into them? Because when they die, they're dead. They're gone. So like that was Darkest Dungeon 1. Very cool game. I dumped a lot of hours into it. It's just neat. It's a fun game. I recommend it. If you like roguelikes, if you like dungeon crawlers, if you like kind of like cell shaded art style, like it's very neat. But Darkest Dungeon 2, it takes a slightly different approach. I believe the story that we're going on here is that you failed in Darkest Dungeon 1, and the eldritch horrors were unleashed upon the world. You did not successfully cleanse the hamlet. The Darkest Dungeon is now everything, basically. Like, the entire world has been infected, and society is crumbling or has crumbled. And so instead of going in these delves into, like, a dungeon or, like, into the swamp or, like, just specific places, you're instead traveling between inns and like encountering things along the way. And so like the inns are the safe spots, but you're like in a carriage and all of your people are in the carriage together, and their like relationships with each other affect things. And it's it feels a little too random right now. I feel like they're going to have to patch it to take out some of the randomness, because like I had a crew that was like doing great. Like everything was pretty easy for them. They were doing really well. And like they got through like 2 of the 3 regions, and they're in the last region. And then they just got party wiped. And I was like, what the fuck? Like everything was going fine, and suddenly a party wipe. Like it just seems like there's too many variables right now that are like, everything can be going totally fine, and then you get this specific set of things that go wrong, and you're like, there's nothing you can do, because once you're in a fight, you can't back out. You used to be able to back out of a fight. You may not successfully run, you may skip your turn. Like you try to run, you fail, they attack you again, you lost your turn, but you could try to run again. Now you cannot run from a fight. So once you're in the fight, you're locked in, which I feel like is a weird decision.
Yeah,
when like when the
Mhm.
randomness factor is so high, where like you've blasted through like 2 of 3 areas, you're in the 3rd area, and suddenly everything's going wrong, and you're like, I just slowly watch them die. Like that's all I do.
That's all any of us have the power.
It's all we do. Yeah, it's very punishing, and you do get like experience at the end for like the things you did accomplish, even if nobody makes it back. So in theory, you level up your people, things get easier over time. But like I don't know, it just that randomness factor without the ability to back out seems too high and too punishing for the intro like levels to the game, because it feels very much like people are gonna get pissed and be like, well, I'm not playing again. Like.
Yeah.
I feel like they skewed too difficult for the beginning, without giving you the option of correcting your mistakes. Whereas before, you could correct your mistake, you could back out at any time. You may not necessarily succeed, but you could try to back out at any time. Now, once you're in a battle, you're locked in a battle. You can't. You're there. So.
Is this a one-player game?
Yes, it is 1 player. If you're playing Darkest Dungeon 1, they do have a multiplayer section called like the arena. Where you're able to like fight other people's, like people make parties and you fight against each other. I think it's called Crimson Court. So if you have Crimson Court for Darkest Dungeon 1, then it is multiplayer in that sense. But you play the main game solo, and perhaps maybe they intend to add some sort of 2-player to the Darkest Dungeon 2, but no idea if that's in the works.
Gotcha. I just wondered if it was like Divinity, where you had like you could do co-op kind of things.
Yeah. At least as of right now, no. But they did add Crimson Court later to Darkest Dungeon 1, so it might be something that they're planning on doing again. I could even see like having, even playing the game, like making it so that like 2 people are in control of the choices being made, you know, like having to be like, okay, we're both deciding this, and then if we decide different things, we have to do something, you know, like I just see them doing that, making it co-op that way, or even just doing like battling, like they did with Crimson Court and Darkest Dungeon 1. So, but yeah, I mean, I would still say worth a buy, but I feel like it's going to be patched to make the early game less fucking harsh, because right now it's really harsh. And as somebody who played the first one, I know this game can be hard, but like they really. The not being able to back out of a battle when it's this fucking random is, I feel like it's a big detriment to new players.
I mean, it's kind of what a good roguelike is supposed to do. Like it's supposed to be like, you know, it's supposed to balance like being this, you know, hard challenge, but also still being rewarding.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And like it does reward you, like you still do get things at the end, even if everybody dies. But it's really hard watching this party that you've taken through 2 areas just fucking wipe in the last area right before you reach the end, and you're like, I can do nothing. I can't even make this battle go faster. I can abandon the run. I can just abandon it. But like, you can't even like speed it up. You can either abandon it and just say, okay, we lose and they die, or you just sit there and try your hardest to make them live, and then they die anyway. And it's like, you can't just be like, this is going to happen anyway. Can we just get to the end? You know? Like abandoning feels like quitting, but just sitting there slowly watching them die, and you're like,
I'm just imagining you making that face while sipping like a drink that's like almost empty.
Yeah,
it's like you're like the straw's making like the empty cup noises.
Yeah, that's basically it. Just this face is.
Yeah, you're describing how I play Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
Just being like.
Well, I'm just gonna watch this slow self-destruction.
Yeah, this slow self-destruction that I could do nothing about. Like, oh, there was this one boss that was like, literally it was the slowest death imaginable. Like, I was like just sitting there like, I can do one thing per turn at this point, and I have two options. One of them is skip my turn and hope to heal some health, or heal myself. But if I do either of those two things, then the very next turn, I'm not going to be able to do anything for another 3 turns. And I'm just doing this with every single character. And there's 4 of them up until they die. And it was like...
Reminds me of an old Family Guy quote. It's like, do you win this game? No, you just get a little better at losing each time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that's what it felt like. I'm like, there's no winning here. I don't even foresee a future where I'm winning. But there is one character who has like an ability that like can bring fire to the table, and I feel like fire would have changed this battle entirely. Like, maybe don't go into this fight unless you have fire on your side. Like, I don't know. It's just that fight seemed totally unwinnable. Maybe if you set it on fire, things change. I don't know. I haven't tried yet for that one. Yeah. Maybe wait for a patch. I still recommend it. I still like the game, but maybe wait for the first update after the release, where they're like, maybe a little less random.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Baldur's Gate 3.
Are you looking forward to it?
I think so, yeah. We played what they've put out so far, and we broke it several times, but that's part of the fun. So it's like leaving the area you were talking to somebody, and then you go out and all of a sudden genocide happened while you were in the house, and you're like, I don't know if we did that, if that was supposed to happen, but either way, this is bad.
Go back.
Yeah. So we'll see what that happens again. Yeah. Then I know we did it.
So I'm going to pivot to some movie talk. Let's see. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Have you all seen it?
I haven't, but I hear it's good and sad.
Yes. We'll keep the spoiler free. Mm-hmm.
It's not even really a spoilery kind of film, honestly. I mean, depends on the way you look at it, I guess.
Yes. It's very good. I think it kind of has brought in the fact that it's the Guardians films are probably the best part of the MCU as a whole. Mm. It has some of the earlier themes of like family, and not like the Fast and the Furious family, but like
I was just thinking that.
Which is just family. But
hold on.
Okay.
Family.
But instead it's kind of like chosen family, and like how like the people that create you or the people that are your parents, like in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, like Ego, the guy played by
Kurt Russell.
Yep.
Yes, that one. But he's just because he's his dad doesn't mean that he's his father, so to speak. And it's kind of like how this one goes too, but instead of Peter, it's kind of Rocket's story. And it handles lots of themes involving like grief, trauma, and abuse. And it's like really dark themes, but it handles them incredibly well.
Yeah.
And I think part of that's due to like the film, like the Guardians films as a whole, like despite their silliness and their silly antics, they have always been emotionally very sincere.
Yeah.
And dark.
They've been dark, but they've been emotionally sincere, like in terms of like, like there's like, it doesn't feel flippant. It makes you, the audience, like get invested and care about everyone, which then makes all the action and the story and the themes feel relevant and resonant. And then there's the fact that, on the flip side, there's also this villain that has zero empathy, and that's kind of a good contrast between the heroes who, in a movie that is all about having empathy, which then kind of makes that bad guy like a really good villain, just because he's like the antithesis of what the Guardians represent. But a long story short, I loved it. I think it's the best thing Marvel's done in a long while. And I like
Agreed,
some, and
yeah.
I did like some of Phase 4, but like, you know, it's been a while since I've been like, this is like an S tier Marvel movie. Like I like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but that's a B plus.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, and Multiverse of Madness was just like Sam Raimi getting to Sam Raimi all over the place. And I love that about Sam Raimi. But it was such a Sam Raimi film. Like, if you were not a Sam Raimi fan, like, if you don't know what he does besides Spider-Man and you walked into that movie, like, you were going to be like, jaw on the floor, what the fuck is happening? You know? Like,
We
as
saw
Evil
people in
Dead
the theater.
fan,
Yep, people in my theater had that reaction.
yeah, as an Evil Dead fan, I knew what I was going into. I knew Sam Raimi not as Spider-Man, but as Evil Dead. You know, like he did horror before he did Spider-Man. You know, so
yeah, I don't know. This one felt different to me too. It's just the stakes of it. I mean, like you kind of know it's the end before because they've said this is the closing of a chapter, and that's not even really important. But like it felt like that compared to some of these other ones.
One review, and I agree with it, is that there's a feeling of finality to it that a lot of the MCU lacks. Like even, you know, regardless of like what happens to the characters, you know, James Gunn is gonna be doing DC stuff from now on, and other cast members like Drax have said that, you know, they don't want the. I said cast members like Drax. Cast members like Dave Bautista as Drax.
You know, real life actor.
Real life Drax.
Well, the real life Drax. He's like, you know, he said he was grateful for the character, but he doesn't want that to define his career.
Yeah, a lot of the actors are ready to move on, which is understandable. It's been
anyone painted is basically done, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like. You know, they were all kind of like, well, and it's just the ending of the series as we know it, not necessarily the ending of the series itself, but the ending of, you know, how we view the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it may continue, but it won't be the same.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, because like with any comic book movie, there's always the what comes next, you know, like that's very much a thing. I mean, about the standard comic books, when you're looking at the DCs and the Marvels, they have phases, they have stages, they have these are the new version of this thing that you liked, you know, these are the ones that come next. These other ones retired or died or went to space or went to the past or went to the future or an alternate universe, or we're in an alternate universe now, you know, like any number of things. Like that is a comic book, you know, so the Guardians of the Galaxy we know are done, but that doesn't mean Guardians of the Galaxy is done. It just means this version, this set point in time, these characters as they are now.
I feel like they gave closure too. Like Marvel is not good at closure at all.
Yeah, no, they suck at it.
Well, they don't know what closure is
because it's comic books.
It's a perpetual continuity that's supposed to last forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Endgame is about the only other one that did a little bit of it.
Yeah. You know, and I think that is something that all comic book movies do struggle with is closure, because comic books don't end. They never really end. So it is hard to give their movies, their themes, their arcs real endings, because in comic books, you don't see that. At least in the superhero genres, the Marvels, the DCs. There's lots of comic books that give you satisfying endings, but they're not the two mastheads.
They're not the ones that do the cape shit.
Yeah. You're not going to find, you know, your Superman's giving you a real ending, unless it's an alternate universe. In which case you could get an ending, and it's probably horrible, as in like awful and sad. Because they're not going to give you a happy ending if they're giving you an ending. It's going to be awful and sad, and then you're going to go back to the main universe, and then everything's back to normal.
See what you got, now go back where we want you.
Yeah. You want an ending? Here you go. It's awful, and now you're sad. Now aren't you glad we never end? That's comic books.
Basically, yeah. That's the MCU also.
Yeah, I love comic books. So I could go on about this forever. Oh, camera's doing it again.
But yeah, I would agree with Riley. It's probably my favorite MCU film in a very long time.
I'm gonna have to see it. It's on my list for sure. I did want to ask from two people who have seen it. I have essentially some trigger kind of things, some squicks about medical shit. And I know that Rocket was medically experimented on.
Mm.
Do you think I will have trouble with this movie given the content that it shows? One of my biggest problems is needles and shit going where it doesn't belong.
I don't think so. I think the only trigger warning is anyone that is going to have trouble watching animals have any sort of suffering.
Okay.
And it's not, Toy Story 3 kind of suffering. Like, the toys melting in a giant fire.
Yeah, okay.
Like, there's some body horror, I'd say. Because, like, some of the animals in Rocket's flashbacks, they have, like, prosthetic limbs and like, so, one of the bunny has like a metal thing covering her mouth.
But we don't really see them make them.
We don't see them make them.
That should be fine then. That should be fine.
But there is some, except for the turtle. But they don't but they put him in like a machine that zaps him with electricity and it does plot stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of skips all the horror shit though. It just gets to the end.
Okay, that I should be fine then, because that was actually one of the reasons I put off watching it when it first came out, is because I needed to know from somebody I knew, hey, does this shit happen? What do you see? Because I don't want to pass out in a theater.
Right. I have that with eyeball things. I can't watch anytime they do a needles zoom into an eyeball.
Oh yeah.
The new Evil Dead, but they didn't actually cut the eye.
Yeah, I almost passed out in not the Evil Dead that just came out, but the one that came before it.
That one is gory.
Yeah, I almost passed out because of the needle scene and the glass scene. Because one is needles, which I have a problem with. The other is putting shit where it doesn't belong, glass in your body.
That happens in the new one too.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Someone's there's this one character that's eating glass.
Yeah,
that's taken over. And it's just I gotta get the uglies out of my tummy.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit that if it's quick, I'm fine. But it's when they really the last one.
It's you see it go down. It's
it's
by the way, good movie.
Oh, I'm sure I'll watch it. I'm just gonna watch it at home where I can pause, go get a cold compress, and be take a minute after that. Because those are the two things I'm squeamish about. Literally, it can be over the top gore, people getting limbs chopped off, does not bother me. It's just shit going where it doesn't belong, and needles are the two things that bother me. But if you don't see the shit go where it doesn't belong,
exactly,
it's fine. It's just physically seeing it gets me. But yeah, so I should be able to see this even if it's in theaters, because we're not physically seeing.
The only thing I would say is there's a hologram recording where the other characters kind of see what happens to Rocket, and I don't remember if it was really like in that much focus,
Yeah.
but they just go, "Oh God."
Yeah.
They react to it, but you don't
Yeah.
see it.
Okay. I should be fine then. And also they are animal characters. Like they're embodied like humans, but like it's not a human body, so that also will probably temper some of the pass out factor that I get from things like that.
See, that part made it worse for me, not because I would pass out, but because John Wick reasons.
Yeah, well, and it makes it sadder for me, I think. Like, it's sadder because it's animals, but it's not as viscerally, like, my body doesn't viscerally react in the same way. That's a hard word to say.
It's the Game of Thrones thing, though. By the end of it, you're just like, God, I'm so happy this man is getting what he deserves.
Yeah. Yes, that is a good feeling, though. This asshole deserves it.
Like the villains in like in a lot of Marvel movies, I always wonder whether or not lethal force is absolutely necessary against some of the like the henchmen or even the main bad guy. Is the lethal force really necessary? In this one, it's like, yes.
Yes, please. Yes.
They suck. I hate them.
Well, and I think Marvel struggles with that problem a lot because they do make, generally speaking, complex villains where a lot of times you see yourself, you could even agree with a lot of the things the villains are saying. And even like a normally rational person would be like, yeah, no, I agree with that. But then they have to make the villain go like kill some random civilians so that you're like, okay, now we have a reason to kill them. And it's like, maybe you just shouldn't have made them so empathetic where people are like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, Falcon and Winter Soldier comes to mind, especially when I think of that. Like, a lot of that plot was affected by COVID, like because of like
there was a pandemic involved in it.
Yeah, because like originally there was supposed to be like the bad guys were going to release like a neurotoxin or like a virus or something, and like that's what they were supposed to be carrying like in the beginning, was like that, and instead it ended up being supplies that were going to like refugees, and it's like we're supposed to hate these people. Like they're bringing medicine, you know, like they had to change a bunch of shit really last minute, and like you can tell because the plot's like the only reason it makes sense to kill this person is because they killed a lot of people, but really beyond that all their reasoning was fine, and it didn't seem like they were going to kill a lot of people, but then suddenly they did. So like
it felt like The Boys for a second there.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're just doing this because a lot of people need to die, so they're going to die, you know, like and Falcon and Winter Soldier really struggle with that because like no, a lot of the things they were saying, it was like, nope, that checks out.
Make a lot of good points there.
That's a lot of really good points. Yeah, no, this real estate should be open for people to use still.
The best line in the series is correct that he's out of line, but he's right.
Yeah, like same face from Darkest Dungeon, like so I think Marvel suffers from that a lot because they do make complex villains that raise some good points, and then they back themselves into the corner being like, shit, our villain made too good of points. And this one seems like it doesn't suffer from that because they're like, no, this guy's bad.
This guy's a bad guy. And I think what I really like about him, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't like anything about him, but what I like to hate about him is that he's less an irredeemable guy, and he has this complex that kind of like a perfectionist complex.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of reminds me a little bit of like having OCD, but without the empathy.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of like, you know, everything has to be, you know, he wants to make the perfect race of alien species.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's no such thing as perfect.
Yeah.
And so he tests some things.
Yeah.
He's always workshopping. That's what I say about him.
Yep.
Yes.
Any other films you've seen?
The Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. I watched Air.
I did too.
It was on Amazon Prime, so I watched it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid.
I liked it, but I would say
it's not necessarily necessary.
No, watch the Netflix documentary instead, The Last Dance. It's the same thing but better.
What movie? I'm sorry, my dog barked.
Air.
Oh, okay.
The Ben Affleck movie with Matt Damon and
about
Jason Bateman.
Air Jordan shoes.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. You know, as a Bulls fan, it's interesting to me.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
You know, but I'm kind of more interested in the BlackBerry movie.
Yes,
because that's about
the collapse of BlackBerry, and also it's got Dennis Reynolds, so you know, and I'm into it.
Mm-hmm. I watched something recently. What did I watch? Having one of those moments where my ADD is like really like all over the place, like bow, 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 bow.
That's entirely fair. We all understand it. This chat.
Yeah. What did I watch? I watched because I just needed something to put on in the background. I watched Bros, which came out like last year.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I heard about it. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I heard it was good. How was it?
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Like it was very much like an on in the background movie, like while I was doing something else. But like I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was insightful and not necessarily in something I can speak to necessarily, because it was a lot about how like men have relationships, which isn't something I know anything about. Like I am not a man, but it was like about how male relationships are different and how toxic masculinity plays into that. And like, but it was also about like the like LGBTQIA community and how like a lot of times like people are trying to separate it, but really it works best as a community when, you know, everybody's supporting each other, which I thought was like a really nice message. Like it was specifically about gay guys, like that was what it was about, but it was also about like how as a community, you know, we all have to support each other because like everybody else is trying to tear us down and tear us apart because we're easier to take down when we're alone.
I also know, I haven't seen it. I probably should because I know this, but all the actors are in that community.
Yes, yeah, like everybody who is in it like is a part of that community, which is really great. It has its problems. It's by far like not a perfect movie, but it doesn't need to be perfect, and that's the point.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to hold like gay movies to a different standard than we hold other movies, which I think is one of the big problems with the way that, gay characters or LGBTQIA characters are like now, is that, and we're starting to get away from it, but like they have to be a good character. They have to be good representation. They have to be good. And like at the same time, like, no, they just need to be representation. They don't need to be necessarily good or bad, or they can be middle of the road. They can have problems. Nothing needs to be perfect. Just the fact that it's there is great. And it was an enjoyable movie. I liked it. I thought it was well done. It's fucking goofy. Like there's so many scenes that are just like, oh my fucking God. Well, this is happening now. All right. I guess this is what's happening.
Comedy set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it had a lot of fun set pieces. It had a lot of fun, like, it was a lot of fun, I would say. So I'd say, give it a watch if it's something that interests you. It was one of those things that was on my list, but it wasn't something I was rushing to see. It was more of like, I'll watch that eventually. And that eventually happened. And I watched it and I was like, that's pretty good. I'm not upset that I watched it. Not
fair. Sometimes that's all.
Yeah. As long as you feel like you didn't waste your time, I feel like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say watch it. I'd say give it a go. It's pretty fun. It's pretty funny. It's a rom-com. So, if you're looking for a rom-com, that's what it is,
We need more good rom-coms, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not really been many.
No, the era of the rom-com really died in like the early 2000s. Because I think there was just so many. They were everywhere. Every movie was a rom-com.
Yeah.
It was too many. We got flooded and everyone was like, okay, no, can you please just stop though? And then everybody stopped.
I watched The Notebook once, and I don't have a desire to watch it again.
Yeah,
I've actually never seen The Notebook. I've seen multiple scenes from The Notebook.
It's
never
ridiculous.
Actually watched it.
It's a ridiculous movie.
It seemed ridiculous, which is why I never watched it. I'm like, this seems dumb.
It's objectively just a thing.
Yeah. But it's such a culture point that I feel like I should have seen it, but I was always just like, no, thanks. I'm not interested.
I always laugh when they just, as they'd make laying down in the middle of the street romantic.
Yeah, it's like, you're going to get hit by a car.
What are you doing? You're a bad example for children.
Yeah, there's so many things like that in that film. Yeah,
that's just a bad idea. I was always more of I liked weird rom-coms. I don't know if anybody ever saw Kate and Leopold.
I've not.
Kate and Leopold, it has Hugh Jackman in it. But Hugh Jackman is literally from the past. Like he is from the past, and he accidentally encounters a time traveler, and this time traveler has learned that there is a specific break in time where you can travel from modern day New York or San Francisco, somewhere with a big bridge. I don't remember. It's been a long time.
New Francisco.
Yeah, New Francisco. And if you fall into this rip, it'll take you either to the past or the future, or the past or the present day. He hasn't found a way to go forward yet. And so Hugh Jackman from the 1890s in whatever city he's in, is sees this guy and notices something weird about him, and he wants to ask him a question because he sees that he has something, and the Hugh Jackman's character is very inquisitive, he's he dabbles as an inventor, that's just the kind of shit he's into. And so he sees this guy with this thing he doesn't understand. He's like, I want to know what that is. And he's chasing this guy down, and then this guy starts acting weird, and he's like, well, then I'm gonna keep chasing him because he's being a fucking weirdo. What's going on? Why are you running? I just wanted to ask you a question. This is my party. Why are you running away from me? And then the guy makes it through the gap in time, but Hugh Jackman follows him, and then it's just like past Hugh Jackman in modern day, like trying to survive the world. And of course he falls in love with the lady, and the lady falls in love with him, not realizing he's from the past. And then the guy who was like the time traveler is like this woman's ex. And so like he's like trying to keep them apart the entire time. And it's just like the fucking goofiest movie. Because it's just like somebody just wanted to tell a time travel story, but also a rom-com.
That's what I was thinking. There was a purpose for this.
Yeah, and like at one point Hugh Jackman's like starring in a butter commercial. Because he was able to pull off like the sophistication they were looking for better than anybody else they were trying out. And the entire reason is because he's literally from the past and like spoke with a different cadence. And he's still like he's in like a margarine commercial or something. And it's like, what is this movie? And that's the kind of rom-coms I like.
Yeah, I like any movie that's a what is this movie kind of movie.
Yeah. Where you walk away, you're like, I don't know what I just watched, but I enjoyed it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was the kind of rom-coms I was watching in the early aughts, instead of The Notebook.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So watch Kate and Leopold. It's fucking weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sold on that.
I'm kind of sold too.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I'll tell you that. It's fucking weird. Goodness, the autofocus on my camera is wild today. There we go.
It just
I
wants to
also
take the
went through 3 album Smashing Pumpkins release. I don't know if you knew about that, but that's a thing.
How was it?
What I would say is I wish that it didn't seem like Billy Corgan was threatening us when he put out new music. Like, next release, 4 albums about how I'm better at being fat and overweight than sad than you. I'm like, Billy, I get it. You can do it. We believe in you. But it doesn't mean you need to do this.
Billy, why is this a threat?
A 3-act rock opera where the 3rd act is good and the other 2 are why. It's, just listen to the 3rd disc. It's actually not bad. But the first 2, it's like, we're going to make you love this because by the end you'll like it. It's like, well, no. You need to make things worth listening to, not just a good ending. So yeah, 2 discs are...
So 1/3 of the album is solid.
Mm-hmm. Which, let's not rate that way because
it's 3 albums.
Yeah, that's not a great score. I heard of the band and listened to them for the first time this week called Prepare Yourselves, Shitfire, and they're really fun.
They'd have to be fun with a name like that, though.
Yeah, they're contractually obligated to be fun.
Yeah,
if they're named Shitfire.
Yeah,
or Bong Grip.
Yes.
It's like the early 2000s of like Detroit bands, the shit fuckers. Why not? Okay.
Why not? Yeah. But yeah, they're from Louisville, Kentucky, which is apparently like a bastion of like leftism, like in Kentucky, which I learned from my coworker who lives in Louisville, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're all communists out here." But then you leave Louisville, and Kentucky. So that was the thing I learned.
Who knew? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know. But he recommended Shitfire to me, and he's like, yeah, they're like trash thrash, and the lead singer is like 5'0", but she goes really hard, and I'm like, I'm into that. All right. And so I looked them up, and they're pretty good. Like, I enjoyed it. That's what I was listening to when I was working on Friday. I'm like, I don't want to work, but if I'm gonna work, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, actually. That sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, like look up Shitfire. Like it was a surprising recommendation from a friend, and it was really funny when my coworker said that. Like, he described the band, and then our other coworker was like, because he was going to see them that over the weekend. He's like, yeah, I'm going to see Shitfire through this local band, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other coworker's like, wow, it's so weird that you're going to see my new favorite band over the weekend. Just because the description is so great that everyone who hears it is like, well, I need to go look this up.
Of course, yeah.
I can't blame you.
Yeah. So yeah, look up Shitfire. They're entertaining. A good way to, if you want to wake up and thrash, like if you're just like mad or like it's Friday and you don't want to be doing your job, listen to some Shitfire. It'll make you feel better about it.
Fair enough. I like that.
Yeah.
I
And
listened
also,
to.
it's just fun to
Go
say.
ahead.
Oh, just saying, it's fun to say.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So I've listened to a few albums lately. One of the albums is by a rap metal band called the Riot Kings, or not the Riot Kings, the Dropout Kings, and their new album they just released is called Riot Music, and it's like really good, like combination of like actual rap and like kind of gent metal, as well as some kind of Linkin Park style choruses. It's a really good album. My only critique of it would be that it's kind of tonally inconsistent because because one part it's like they'll be talking about like mass violence and how awful it is, and then in another song they'll be rapping about Cybertron and tater tots.
Oh God.
Yes, that does sound totally inconsistent.
But like the delivery is so good, like the music, like the riffs are so strong, and like the choruses are so catchy that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It all sounds good regardless of whether it's serious or tater tot metal.
Yeah, they have the turnstile method then. That's what I love about turnstile. Doesn't matter. It's fun.
It's just one of those things where like you're listening and you're like bopping along. You're like, oh yeah, it's about tater tots, and the next song you're like, oh yeah, it's about mass violence.
Let's see. I've listened to a few like shred and power metal bands. Like one of them's called Burning Witches. They're kind of like an all-female, like kind of new wave of British heavy metal style band. They released a new album called, I think it's Dark Tower. Not related to Stephen King.
That was
not related to the book series. Continue.
Not related to Stephen King. But it's if you like want like big grandiose power metal or new wave of British heavy metal kind of style of metal, that's really good. So I'm just like looking at all of I listen to a lot of I'm planning on covering more albums on the channel.
Okay.
So I've been kind of like I unfortunately listened to the new Avenged Sevenfold song.
Again, you do this to yourself, and I don't know why.
But their last album was good.
Yes, a while ago. That's true. The stage
was good. This is like experimental, and it doesn't feel cohesive, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
Plugging in my charger. Go on.
But I started listening to the new Cattle Decapitation because like some good death metal, and it's something that I talk about with David quite a bit, just because we like cattle.
Yeah.
Cattle or Cattle Decapitation?
Well, we in short form we call it cattle. We just refer to them as cattle, like the new Cattle record. But it's
really you're just really into cow music.
Yeah, I just like it, like the heavy metal moo.
Is it music for cows or music from cows, though? That's the question.
I mean, their new album is called Terracite, and it has. Let me try and find the album cover. It's gloriously disgusting. Because they're an environmentally conscious vegan death metal band. So it looks like that. Like it looks like a demented Bug's Life thing. But it's a good record. I kind of like their last one better because it felt like a more cohesive, conceptually cohesive album. But this is still good.
Yeah.
I might get some hate comments for that because some people are like, because that one's a little bit more melodic at parts. But I liked it. But yeah, that has been
the famous opinion quote. Just like assholes.
But I'm right.
Yeah. I do have a game thing, but we can save it if you'd rather wait.
Okay.
Up to you.
We can do a game thing.
Okay.
I'm okay with doing a game thing.
I have a sideways band fights where I decided instead of band fights, it's on-stage meltdowns. So
ooh.
On-stage meltdown band fights. So this one, band abandoned singer on stage alone as he drunkenly rants for 3 minutes. I can give hints too if we need them.
I might need it.
This sounds familiar, but also I feel like this has happened more than once.
This
Yeah,
has
that's
happened more
probably-
than once for this specific band, if that helps.
Okay.
Scott Stapp.
No, but that's a good guess. I'm sure that's happened with Scott Snap. It's the same. It's the same era as Scott Snap, though.
Is it Smash Mouth?
No, but that's a good guess.
I feel like that did happen. There was like a video of him just like ranting on stage at some festival or something.
So that is, if you haven't looked it up, that almost chose that one.
Yeah.
But I figured you might guess that. It's hilarious. His very last show, he doesn't sing the lyrics, more just says the N-word a lot. And yep, that was the last time he ever sang with Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, I remembered seeing that. Okay, so not that one.
Nope. Hard to forget that one.
Yeah. Okay. So we're close.
Referenced on this show already once, if that helps.
Okay.
Riley and I used to. We remember we used to have a running joke with this person, and it was usually because they've done something ridiculous.
Not Scott Stapp, but I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the other one.
You know what I'm talking about.
I have a picture in my head. It's
Is
either
this
Oasis?
It's either
Puddle of Mud, Creed.
Puddle of Mud.
Oh, Puddle of Mud.
I was like, I forgot who the singer of Puddle of Mud was.
I don't remember his name either, but it is Puddle of Mud. Yep.
I'm not.
He was calling. He's also the same guy that called in a bomb threat to his own show. That was another one that was on the options list.
Did he just not want to go?
We don't know. This was just the thing Riley and I would send back and forth. This is what he did this week.
I feel like that's overkill. If you don't want to go to your own show, like there's other ways to get out of that.
That was a wild
think. Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
He did a few things like that in 1 year.
I imagine it was a rough year for that man.
I'll go for an easier one.
Okay.
Singer melts down at famous Las Vegas festival and curses out festival as his countdown timer tells him he has 1 minute left on stage. He immediately smashed his guitar and went to rehab after this, if this helps.
Okay, so smash guitar and rehab.
The big key is there was a countdown telling him he had 1 minute left to play, and then he was going to have to leave the stage, and he did not take that well.
Who was the singer of the Stone Temple Pilots?
Oh, you're thinking of Scott Weiland. You can name the band in this case, too, but no, not Scott Weiland. Okay.
Because I know he had some... at least I think it was him. Or am I misthinking?
He's done several things like this.
Okay, so I'm not
Chili Peppers.
No. Think 2000s pop punk.
Okay.
But a band you both probably actually like at certain points.
Green Day?
Yep. This is Billy Joel Armstrong at Las Vegas. Told he had a minute left to play, and instead of playing Basket Case, he cursed at the audience for a minute and a half and smashed his guitar and left the stage.
And then went to rehab.
Yep. And went to rehab immediately after.
I'm
glad that we got help.
Yeah, me too. I have a weird story about Green Day. It has nothing really to do with Green Day. It's just me hanging out with my dad, and my dad asked someone at this rock store, I've listened to this metal band called Green Day, and I'm like, Dad, you're embarrassing me!
That's fantastic.
That is so far from metal.
I'll throw another easy one. There's 5 of these. Number 3, knocked unconscious by photographer after photos went over his allowed photo limit.
Well, there's 2. It's either Axl Rose or the Queens of the Stone Age. Maybe, because I know Queens of the Stone. As I know, Josh Holmes he
kicked a photographer in the face. Yes, that's the true story. That was also accurate. But no, in this case, the photographer punched out the singer unconscious because he yelled at the photographer for taking too many photos. So the photographer knocked him out.
Who got knocked out on stage by a photographer?
May have headlined Riot Fest last year.
Oh wait, who headlined Riot Fest? I should know this.
Mike Kent.
Nope,
no,
it's not Mike Kemp.
That doesn't seem like a Mike
Alkaline
Kemp
Trio?
Nope.
Okay.
Hey, those
Wasn't-
Alkaline Trio shows are rough.
It wasn't with his main band, the Misfits. It was Glenn Danzig solo.
Oh.
Okay, that would make sense. That
Yeah.
makes more sense than Mike Hem or
Alkaline
Okay.
Trio. I was like, these don't feel like right answers, but we know
They-
they were
they-
there.
Alkaline
Yep.
Trio just seems so nice.
Yeah, like it doesn't seem like they would do that, but also
No, I was gonna say Glenn Danzig. It doesn't
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
makes complete sense. We were just thinking of headlining the wrong nights.
Yep, that's true.
What are you two doing down there?
There's
Hi.
a thing going on.
There it is. Here,
There's two ridiculous ones left, so I'll go for an old school one. Live show on TV performance interrupted when the drum kit exploded and shrapnel fired everywhere.
Oh shit.
1970s.
I feel like that's something that would have happened on Metalocalypse.
It is exactly like something that would have happened on Metalocalypse, except it actually happened.
Can we ask why it exploded? Like,
You can. The
Yeah.
drummer filled his drum kit up with explosives and detonated it on purpose to end the song.
okay, that does help with context. This wasn't like a pyrotechnics accident. Somebody
Nope,
did
this was
on
a I
purpose.
did drugs and hit a drum kit explosion on purpose thing.
Okay. I mean, I've never heard this story, but
It's a great one, but I'll give you a hint. The drummer is Keith Moon.
Sorry, my dog. She's being very bad.
She's so excited though.
Yeah.
If you know Keith Moon, I know some people may not, but
I know the name is familiar, but I can't place it. Which
it's going over my head right now.
this is The Who. On 1970s TV, The Who performed live where Keith Moon had, unknowing to the rest of the band, strapped his drum kit full of explosives and ended the song kicking the drum kit's bass drum and exploding everything. The studio was on fire and they quickly, awkwardly cut to black.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I knew the name Keith Moon, but my brain kept filling in with I don't know if you've seen The Mighty Boosh, if you're familiar at all.
Of course.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
I kept filling in with Howard Moon, and I'm like, that's not.
The best part about this, I'll see if I can find. You can literally watch this. It's a live.
That's
There is a
amazing.
recording of this performance where the host of the TV show goes, "We'll be right back." It's so good.
Oh, that's really funny. Oh, yeah, no, my brain just kept being like Howard Moon, the Mighty Boosh. I'm like, no, not the right Moon.
That's something he would do, though.
It is something he would do, yeah. Except he'd be playing jazz.
Last one. This one is probably the greatest thing I've ever read related to this. What is known as the last and worst rock show in history happened after a band mistakenly took crystal meth. Mistakenly. Members playing different songs at the same time on stage. The singer lays down on stage and tries to fall asleep, gets yelled at by the audience, so he tries to fight them all one-on-one and is kicked out of the show by bouncers.
Is this
This is an
Limp
older
Bizkit?
reference.
Oh,
No,
older
not
reference.
Limp Bizkit, but I could see that.
Yeah, it just feels like Limp Bizkit.
Woodstock.
Yeah, Woodstock '99. My brother was there, by the way.
Oh God, I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, apparently he was there when they started tipping over cars and stuff.
Oh my God.
At one point, he was seen on TV. He did not do any car tipping, but he was there. But like all of his friends thought he got arrested because they saw him on TV. And so then when he showed up back at
Oh,
school,
man.
they're like, "Oh, you're not arrested.
You're not in jail. Good
You're
job.
not in jail. You're not stuck in New York." But yeah.
Hint number one, I mentioned that this band probably could have a segment on this segment every single time due to their history.
Okay. And you said this is an older one, right?
Older as in 90s.
90s. Okay. 90s. That helps.
They do a lot of stupid shit, and they still do a lot of stupid shit. And they were featured on this segment once before.
But it wasn't Guns N' Roses, was it?
No, but again, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. These are all valid guesses.
I mean, Guns N' Roses, like, I feel like you could throw out anything. You'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
they probably do that.
This is another one of those exact things where you're like, I could see that. Yeah.
Who else has been featured on this segment before?
British band, famous two brothers.
the Wonderwall band, Oasis.
It is Oasis.
I
just
even guessed Oasis earlier today.
I was gonna say Blur just to ruffle some feathers, but no, it's Oasis.
Just Google Oasis and so many things come up. It's so bad. It's so hilarious. This is the greatest thing I ever read, though. They're saying the recount of the story is the band promoter says the band told me we accidentally took meth before going on stage, which is my favorite part of that story.
Oh, well, it's like if you're accidentally taking meth, accidentally taking crystal meth, two different things. Was it crystal meth or meth?
It was crystal meth.
Yeah, you don't accidentally do crystal meth.
Well, the best part is they're like, oh yeah, we did drugs, but not meth. That was an accident.
Yeah, because just like meth, like methamphetamines, that could just be a pill. Like that could just be a pill you take, you don't know what it is, and then you're really high. But like crystal meth, it's a
could see this
whole thing. Crystal meth, you are smoking it or it's snorting it. You are like, it looks like
crystals.
It looks like crystals. You know what it is.
We've seen Breaking Bad. We know.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you can't accidentally take crystal meth out of all the drugs.
Great. I just love that the singer lays down on the stage and the audience yells at him. So his response is to try and fight them.
Out of all the things claim you took accidentally, they could have said they took something else accidentally and it'd be more believable. Like,
it was. I read that like, this is so goddamn funny.
Oh my god! Just the
obviously, I need to learn more about Oasis. Apparently,
I know that not even the music, just what they've done.
Oh, well, and like I like the song Wonderwall, but not by Oasis. There's this other guy who sings it, and like he does like a cover, and it's a nice cover, and I like that cover. So like I've listened to that cover more than I've listened to actually Oasis by Wonderwall by Oasis. So like learning all this. I
like Oasis too, but Wonderwall is just one of those. I've heard it way too much songs.
Yeah, well,
they play it at work.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall. You know.
Yes,
like,
the meme, exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's Hulk Hogan on the side of the ring. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Yeah. Oh, goodness, Oasis. I just for a band that is just like, you would not assume they would get up to that shit. Is like, just.
There's so many. Like I had to edit through so many. I always. Oh god, it's funny.
So, like you would think. You would think they just wouldn't have that many problems, you know, but clearly they do.
Caused themselves problems.
Yeah, like they're making these problems for themselves, and someone needs to take their money away.
It's like that Sunny in Philadelphia thing where it's like, well, you got to sniff the cat food because if you sniff the cat food, then you sniff the glue because the cat's outside and you can't think there's too many cats and it's too loud.
Yeah.
Like, Charlie, just stop buying cat food. It's like, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, they're like the Charlies of the music world.
Basically, like I said, one of them called the other one a fucking potato. No context. Nothing, just that. They tweeted exactly that.
I have to say, some of my favorite insults are just calling people like objects or like
great. Yeah,
because it's just.
It lives in my brain rent free. You're a fucking potato.
Yeah. I recently insulted like a character in a book by calling them a pigeon, and I'm like, that's a good insult. Just calling someone a pigeon, like it implies like a very specific set of things, you know, about that person. You get a very clear image of what you're saying by saying you're a fucking pigeon.
Yeah, yes, it's very much a description.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn a lot just from those like 3 words. Yeah. Oh my god, Oasis though. I
know.
It's not even a band I really listen to.
Yeah.
It's like,
they make this game worth it just because I get to read more ridiculous shit that they've done.
More ridiculous shit about Oasis. The game.
It goes on, and I'm not even going to say more because I'll probably use it again.
Well, one time you're going to bring this game forward and it's going to be all Oasis.
Oh my god. Now it has to happen. Now that has to happen at some point. I'm not going to tell you when.
Yeah. Just at some point, it's going to be all Oasis. It'll have to be a while because
it's too good though. Yeah, I gotta save that.
Yeah, you can't do it close to now. You have to wait till I forget. So like, wait 2 weeks. And then I'll forget.
Oasis. Oh shit.
Beetlejuice, they're here. They're saying potato.
Oh, did you? They're making a sequel to Beetlejuice.
I saw that. I'm one of the few that might actually look forward to that. I know some people are torn, but I think it'll be fun.
The fact that they're doing a sequel and not a remake actually has me more interested because the idea of a sequel to Beetlejuice has me more interested than a remake of Beetlejuice would have.
I'm with you there.
They talked about it for so long too, so it seems like they've been trying for a while.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega is a great pick.
Yes.
Yeah, she is.
She's going to do really great. So like, I like her. I like the idea of a sequel rather than a remake. A remake would have been unnecessary, but a sequel.
A remake would have been heinous.
I mean, you still got Michael Keaton.
Yeah, and Michael Keaton's still going to be in it. He's like, no, I am Beetlejuice. I am there. And so, I think it has the potential to be really good. If they decide to remake it, like that would have been no, don't do that. That movie is good. You don't need to remake it. I think there is definitely a big problem with movies being remade that don't need to be remade because they were already good. Like you don't.
My voice cracked.
It happened.
Carrie, the remake, not good.
Yeah,
not
like
good.
Why are you remaking a movie that's already good?
There are so many remakes I straight up skip because I just don't want to.
Yeah, because like if the original movie was already good and didn't like suffer from anything that needed remaking, then why are you doing it?
Money.
Money.
But
It's a cash grab. But I think like the movies that should be remade are the movies that didn't live up to what they could have been because of like technological restrictions or like things they couldn't do at the time. Like if there's a movie where like had a really great premise but just really couldn't pull it off, like I think that's stuff you should be remaking because you can pull off almost anything now. Why not things that sucked before?
Just imagine if they remake the original Star Wars trilogy.
I can hear the internet from here.
No, don't do that. No.
It obviously needed a better laser sword fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi than that hallway. No, it's perfect.
I love Star Wars, but the fans drive me crazy.
Yeah,
just like kind of like Zelda fans too.
Oh yeah, that's accurate too.
Oh well, I hate what happened to the end of the most recent Star Wars trilogy. Yeah, because I really liked what Rian Johnson was doing, and then the last movie just like
wow, 3 of us like that. That is actually kind of rare to find 3 Last Jedi defenders, to be honest.
Last Jedi, great movie, one of the best Star Wars movies ever. And then The Rise of Skywalker, just kind of...
one of the worst. Yeah.
One of the worst. I'm actually kind of interested that they're doing that 15 years later sequel because they have a chance to now have that whole saga end on a better note than it did in The Rise of Skywalker. So I'm actually kind of like, okay, if you could make that good.
Yeah, because Rise of Skywalker was just really like... I don't know, it just felt super fan servicey and like they decided to bow to all the people who didn't like the Rian Johnson versions of the story, and it's like, but no, those stories were actually good. Like we were going somewhere with this, and then you just totally backflip.
I like to picture it like the movie directors were in a boxing match fighting each other.
Yeah,
like no, it's my film.
Put him up. Oh, because I've been a fan of Rian Johnson forever. Like,
he's great.
One of my favorite movies when I was in college was Brick. I don't know if you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Brick is fantastic.
Brick is great. I love Brick. It's one of my favorite movies. And it's the first time I saw like a Rian Johnson film. And then what's it called? Bruce Willis Time Travel.
Looper. That's the first one I saw.
Yeah.
I think it was 9 as well. I went back after that.
Yeah. But yeah, like Brick, Looper, fantastic movies. Rian Johnson knows what to do with a story. But like there was clearly just, I don't know.
I mean, I get why there's some anger towards The Last Jedi because it is technically a deconstruction of what we the audience understand to be Star Wars. Yeah. And I get that there's like, you know, like because some people don't want what Star Wars is rather than like a deconstructed take on it.
Yeah.
But as far as that goes, it was really well done, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I get the anger. I just don't agree.
Yes, yeah, I get it. I don't agree with it. I felt like the Rian Johnson Star Wars duo were like a new take on Star Wars, or like taking Star Wars where it hadn't been taken before. And like the way that The Last Jedi ended, like I really liked like the actual ending, like that very like last scene, I think, where we had it was the kid that was just like on that casino planet, who had been sweeping and then is suddenly like using the Force to sweep. And I was like, that is the thing that like we really haven't covered in the Star Wars universe, is how the Force is more omnipresent than we think it is. You know, like how there's more people out there using the Force than just the Jedi and the Sith, you know, like that's like what the
you don't have to be like a celebrity big name to be a Jedi.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you can use the Force without Jedi training. You're not going to be a Jedi. That's a religion. Like it's not, there's more ways to use the Force. And that's like what the tabletop games really play into, is that like technically anybody can have access to the Force, but they use it in different ways. Like everybody has a connection to the Force. Some is stronger than others. But like the reason why you could posit that Han Solo is such a good pilot is because he is connected to the Force and is able to better fly through his connection to the Force, you know, like, and I thought that's where they were going, and maybe that's where they were going. And then that was just, yeah.
We'll never know. Or maybe we will. We'll have a thing coming out.
Yeah. Maybe they'll do it. Because that was like, I was really excited for that. I was like, are they going to talk about how everybody's connected to the Force? How the Force isn't just Jedi and Sith? Are they going to do it? Like, because that'd be great. And also, Finn was robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's angry and he's right to be angry.
Yes. I love The Last Jedi, but it is a very fair critique.
Yeah.
Because you're talking Star Wars.
Yeah.
Real quick. So a lot of the things that Ryan had to do were all Abrams things that he said you have to add to this movie.
Yeah.
And then Abrams decided not to pay him off in the third movie because Johnson got bad reviews for it in the second movie.
Yeah.
So like Johnson wasn't quite as heavy about Luke being old and depressing. That was more of an Abrams.
Yeah.
I think.
So like a lot of the things that people didn't like were actually John Abrams things.
J.J.
Abrams.
Saying, Johnson, you have to do
John
this.
Abrams sounds like a president.
Third movie that this other guy is directing.
Yeah.
And then the other guy never ended up directing it.
Yeah.
Abrams had to take over.
Yeah.
And Abrams is like, oh, we got to save all these mistakes that Johnson set up. And oh boy.
Yeah.
So Johnson is essentially the fall guy.
The fall guy for a series of Abrams issues. Thank you, Bevan.
I love that. You say Star Wars enough and people will show up.
Gabe just said you say Star Wars enough and people will show up.
Yeah.
If you say it, Bevan will come.
Star Wars movie, I only watched that one once and went, yeah, I've seen enough of this one.
Yeah. It's a see it one and you're done. You don't need to watch that one again. Yeah. Oh, Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars.
So I gotta ask, are you guys going to see Fast 10? I don't know if you're into the same ridiculous stupidity that I am.
I haven't seen a Fast and Furious movie since, like, in theaters. Since, I think I went to see, like, 5 in theaters, like, on a, we want to go see a movie. This is the only thing playing at this time and we're already here. I think that was the last time I saw one. And I don't remember it at all.
It's one of those, I have it tricked my brain to like, this is the stupidest thing I love, but it's so dumb that I'm going to love every moment of its ridiculous stupidity.
I mean, it's okay to love things that are dumm.
I mean,
I love how dumb it is, though.
Oh, you're not dumb.
I'm trying to remember the last Fast and Furious movie I saw. Maybe it was. There's so many of them. I can't. Like, I know they got like they started to get good around the 5th one because they
embraced the stupidity.
Well, yeah, because they became. It's like if you can drive a car well, you're basically God.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think it was the 5th one I saw in theaters then, because that sounds like what I remember. And it was funny because I had seen the first and the second one. I had not seen the third and the fourth one, and then I just went to the theater to see the fifth one, and I'm like, I know all I need to know.
Maybe it was 7 or 8 that I
Yeah.
saw.
Okay, well, I'll have to do the
It was a
review
few,
of
it's a
Thrust
few
on that
years
one,
ago. Yeah, maybe I'll go see it just so I can talk about it. But yeah, I'm thinking about it because I've been to the movie theater a lot lately. I've been seeing 1 to 2 movies like a week, just because I want to be on top of stuff. And it's probably part of my OCD.
I plan to go see it, so
Mental
I will bring that if you don't want to. Make yourself do more things you don't want to do.
Like listen to the new Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yes.
But yeah, I'd be okay with that. I'll still consider checking it out. I'm just not sure yet because I have no idea what's going on. But I think that's part of the point.
You don't need to know much.
Yeah, I mean, I went into the fifth one having not seen the third or fourth one, so...
No, nothing makes sense. It doesn't need to. It's just dumb, but it's so glorious. Gloriously dumb.
I would call it like a guilty pleasure, except the fact that I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I
used to, but I agree now. Yeah.
I think any pleasure does not need guilt associated with it. Just have no shame. If you enjoy something, enjoy it, you know?
It's one of those things where you have to have the right mindset. And the mindset being like, if you ever watched Crank with Jason Statham,
yes,
it's that. It's like, we're going to do ridiculous things that are ridiculous for the point of being ridiculous.
Yeah, we don't need to explain anything, and we're not going to.
Yep. That's why I enjoy Fast and the Furious.
Suspend your disbelief and keep it in the air for 90 minutes.
I think it was the last one. They started using magnets, and that was like a key plot point. I'm like, okay, yeah, magnets. Fast and Furious magnets. I like
car magnets.
Fast and magnetized.
Yep. Now Jason Momoa is the villain. Okay. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. I'm into it.
Oh.
All right. I might cut it there.
I think that's good.
I think that's a good, good place to stop. So if you made it to the end, thank you for watching the Riley and Friends / Chucklefucks Anonymous / whatever we want to call it show. If you want to watch more of our content, it's on this channel, which you probably know because you're on this channel. Thank you for that. But
if you want to argue about Star Wars, please don't.
That's the most important thing said here.
This is the most important lesson of the day. If you want to talk about Star Wars, don't. But where can the folks find you, Corinne?
The folks can find me in a couple of places. They can find me on Twitter as Manic Pixie Girl without the E in Pixie. My name on there would be Corinne McCrory. That is my name. That is me. There's only one of me. You can find me on Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am, which is a comedy romance novel podcast. We get tipsy. We talk about romance novels. We critically analyze them. We make fools of ourselves. And I read a lot of smut aloud because I have no shame, as I said.
What's the book this week?
So the episode this week that is releasing on Wednesday, 5/17, is still Dragon Queens because we went over with the first book. But I hear the second episode's a real doozy from the people who've gotten to listen to it already. It's made people laugh. It's made people think of me differently. They said we're real fucking goofy and it's enjoyable. So, but the book that I read this week will be a couple episodes ahead. I'm not going to say what it is, but I am going to say Shrek and leave it at that.
Okay.
So
you can't just leave it at Shrek.
I'm gonna leave it at Shrek, and then you're gonna have to keep listening to Wham Bam Thank You Man to find out what I'm talking about, because it's not this coming episode. It's not next episode either. We're ahead of schedule, baby. Like, you have to wait until you find out what Shrek means.
That's the best tease. Just one word, Shrek.
Yeah. Just
my brain is filling the answers in, and I don't like it.
Yep.
I gotta dig it.
So check out Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am. You can find that on Podbean, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you find podcasts. If you want to look us up on socials, it's going to be WBTYM Pod. So just all the letters of Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am, and then pod. But yeah, and then you can find me on Reroll HQ, where I do tabletop things. Those are the places you can find me.
And Gabe, how's the dog and the squirrel fight going?
It's good. Circling some trees, doing some stuff. But I actually would like to plug something. It's
yeah, go ahead.
This thing, the thing you're watching. Good job. Okay. Good job. You're watching the thing. I don't know what's going to happen when you close the video because I live here, so you know.
Well, you might disappear forever until the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, no. You're only. I mean, we'll find out, or we won't, because you don't know, and we can't perceive you when you're not on video. So.
Riley's also saying, I wrote an album. Put that out. It's on SoundCloud. Listen or don't. I really don't care. That's the honest truth. I made a thing.
What's it called?
Yeah, what is it?
It's on SoundCloud under Gabe Halverson. This one's called Strange Thoughts for Strange Times. Yeah, that's the thing. I make things and then they do things with them, and I don't really know, and I don't really care either. So, you know, it's fun.
I mean, it's just a fun project. That's all.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Sometimes we create art for the sake of creating art.
Yes.
What? Fine.
I thought we made AI do that now.
Do not
make AI do that.
Do not get me started, Riley. Oh, Riley, dude.
I don't think we're gonna top that, Riley.
Can't end like
that. Go WGA.
Yes.
Yes.
We support the strike.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we support creative artists on here.
Yes. We support artists and human artists creating things. Yes. I suppose if there's animal artists creating things, we support them as well.
I'll be honest, I support them even more.
They don't have like opposable thumbs in most cases. So, you know, like that stag beetle that does art, I support that beetle. But we don't really pay them money, so you should support the writer strike because they deserve to be paid money.
Yes.
A stag beetle just needs like some food. It's probably happy.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I'll see you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.